What's up, guys? This is going to be my 2023 knife breakdown for the year. This is going to be a collection of different knife companies that have actually, I've either purchased their products myself or they've actually sent them to me. And I just wanted to kind of give like a quick breakdown about how I feel about these particular knives that I've had a good chance to use. Now, this list is actually going to be broken down from kind of like price and at the same time just kind of like, using knives that I've had for almost 20 years at this point. So it's going to be a nice collection of knives that everybody could get and what you're looking for in a good knife. This particular collection I think is going to be really appropriate for anybody that's looking for a knife that's just going to last them for a long, long time. Knives are a lot like other things where you really just don't want to just get something just to get it. You want it to actually last you for years. I mean, this knife in particular right here, I've had this for almost 17 years now. So we're going to get through and talk about the pros and cons of each one of these and, kind of see if maybe this might help you narrow down a gift idea or something like that going into the new year. Now again, starting from the lowest price bracket going up, we're going to be working with the Dexter. Now this is the Dexter connoisseur knife. This is a knife that I've had, I think, like I said, for almost 15 or 16 years at this point. This thing is actually a true workhorse. And, honestly, for the price point at around like 50 bucks, it's actually pretty hard to beat. Now, getting into it, the things that I love about this is that it is an absolute workhorse. This thing, you can put any task at hand to this, and if you need to bang out some prep, it will cut through anything. It is truly designed to just like beat the hell out of anything you're going to try to play with. Now, what this is not really meant for is going to be more for like precision work. I mean, like the spine on this knife alone is just so fat that it makes it really difficult to actually get those really delicate knife cuts. So if you're looking for a beater, this is going to be definitely one to kind of consider, but maybe not if you're looking for something a little more precise. Now, I'd break down the specs in this particular knife as well, but even on the website, there just really isn't a lot of information outside of the fact that it's about 8 inches. So I don't even know what kind of metal it is. It's just a good beater. This is an inexpensive knife that will last you a generation and, easy to sharpen, but not the best thing for kind of like finely dicing onions or anything like that. If you need to break through lobster claws and cut through bones, this is a good jam. Next up, also at $50, this is going to be the Kiln chef's knife. So this actually came to me when I was working with them on a project, and honestly, I've used this knife almost exclusively for the last several years. I mean, it is so easy to sharpen. It is just a really reliable knife. The spine is thick, but nowhere near as thick as the other one that I had mentioned. And honestly, it's just a perfect all-around knife. I mean, like, you can do a lot of different things with this, like, just basic butchery work. You can actually break down some vegetables really quickly with this as well. And even on top of that, it actually works nicely with finer dicing and stuff like that because it doesn't have quite as dramatic of a taper. Now, similar to the Dexter knife, this actually doesn't have a ton of information on the actual website. All I know is that, it's an 8-inch chef knife that's made in German steel. But, if you're looking for a Rockwell hardness or even like the angle of sharpness for the blade, I couldn't really fill you in on that because I just don't know off the specs. Next up is going to be the Mercer Renaissance 9-inch chef's knife. Now, this is one that I've had for about 15 years at this point. And this thing is just an absolute beast. I mean, like, I've put this thing through its paces and it sharpens so easily, and it's honestly just a perfect all-around versatile knife, especially for a price point of about $55. The Rockwell hardness on this is about 56, so it's not necessarily the hardest of metals, but it does take an edge really easily. And, I mean, honestly, for a German steel knife that's like pretty inexpensive, this is a really great value for a knife that I've had for almost 2 decades and used quite a bit. This is going to be really handy if you actually have to do some really just like fine knife work or things like that, and it's a really excellent knife for kind of like rock cutting. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Misono chef's knife. Now, this company actually just recently sent this to me, but I've actually had enough time to play with this to really kind of like be surprised at how much I enjoyed it. This is a Japanese steel knife, and it's actually with a 15-degree knife angle and about a 58 Rockwell hardness. So this is a little bit harder than the previous Mercer knife that we talked about, which is still not very hard, but it takes an edge really easily. And honestly, like, this thing is a dream to work with. The fallout from like the handle into the spine of the knife is actually really gradual, so it makes it really easy to get in there and grab it with a good pinch grip, but it's really comfortable. It's about as thick as the Mercer blade as well, so it's actually a perfect knife when you want to kind of do almost any all-around work. So I mean, you could butcher with this, you could actually do some fine knife work, And honestly, from my experience, this is a really great knife for roll chopping, and it's also not bad for just kind of like chopping. But overall, this is actually surprisingly one of the most comfortable knives I've used. I actually just kept finding myself going back to this knife over and over while I was doing my cut tests and stuff. And honestly, I just feel like for the price point, $85, this is actually such a good deal. I mean, this thing is so comfortable to use, it's a lot of fun to use, and you know, I mean, like, I think it'd be a perfect gift for somebody if you were looking to do something not terribly expensive, but at the same time, something that is, you know, not going to hurt anybody's feelings if it gets broken. Now we're going to be stepping into some really fun territory. We're kind of elevating the price budget a little bit, and now we're going to be stepping into the Mercer MX3 series. Now this is their Japanese steel series, and this particular knife is just very exciting for me. This is going to be their 270mm Kyoto knife, which is about 10.5, 11 inches around there. And honestly, this thing is such a dream to work with. I mean, it's a huge knife, so you have a lot of room when it comes to like knife work, but it's also incredibly thin. This has a Rockwell hardness of 62, which is actually one of the highest that we've talked about so far. And that means that it's going to take an edge and hold onto it a lot longer than some of the others because it's a firmer, harder metal. Because this knife is also full tang from tip to tip, it is designed to have incredible balance, which it does, and it feels that way in your hand. Now, who's this knife for? This one's actually sitting around $142, so it's actually not terribly expensive, but it's enough to actually be, I think, a very thoughtful gift for somebody, especially if they're either a chef or, you know, a prosumer that likes to collect kit. I will say that I feel like this is a very specific knife to use, you know, like if you're going to be doing some really delicate knife work and stuff, this will probably be really great, especially if you're chopping veg and stuff. You can absolutely use this to break down, you know, like chickens and animals and things like this because of just how big the blade is. It's going to make it a dream. And then the last knife that we're going to be talking about is the $750 Ara Calabria knife. And I mean, if you can't tell just by the balance of this alone, let's get into the other details that are fun. This is a 237mm or about 9.5 inch chef's knife, and this thing is truly just beyond precision and just like a dream to work with. It uses cryogenically treated American steel, so it actually has this really unique property of having no reflection to it. It's almost matte. It's a really weird thing that I just kind of love about it. But the thing I love most about it is the fact that this knife weighs next to nothing. This knife weighs less than half than I feel like most of the other knives I talked about, which just really makes this so perfect if you're going to be doing a lot of knife work and chopping for hours and hours and hours. This is also going to be sitting at a 63 on the Rockwell hardness scale, which is actually the highest that we've talked about yet. This again just means there's going to be a stronger steel that's going to take an edge and hold on to it a lot longer. Now, going back to what I talked about with the previous knife from the MX series, it had the rounded spine. This does too, but this one was done with so much love. Out of all the other knives as well that we've talked about, this is probably the most thoughtfully designed because in the way that it's designed is perfect for a pinch grip, because it has that rounded spine, and as well the handle is just designed in a way where it just feels perfect and just meant to be. And then in the actual handle itself is a brass counterweight, which makes it perfectly balanced. So this is one of those things where, again, it's just like you almost don't feel like you're using a knife. It just feels more like an extension of your own arm. Now, who's this knife for? Anybody could use this knife and love it. This is not the point about like whether it's a proper knife for somebody with the skill set. This is about more of like a price bracket, because this does sit at a very high price point of around $750 American. And that makes it a little less, you know, like accessible than some of these other knives. But that said, if you even had the opportunity to hold one of these knives, you would understand why. Everything about this is just designed from start to finish with like luxury, precision, and just like incredible craftsmanship in mind. Even the handle has precious gemstones in it. I mean, like, this thing is baller. So my favorite three knives in this entire collection are going to be the Misono knife sitting at $85, the Mercer MX3 sitting around $142, and the Ara Calabria knife, which is actually sitting at a whopping $750. But again, you get what you pay for, and this is truly a dream. I think if you were going to be looking between those three, the Misono and the MX3 are easily just some of the best knives you could get out of this collection for a good chef's knife. Now, the Ara is going to be a little outside of the price bracket for most folks, but again, if you can get it, you should, because it is truly one of the best knives I've ever even seen, let alone used. And the Misono and the MX3 are both perfect knives when it comes to just like long-term use, really nice versatile ability of being able to kind of like break something down, do some heavy dirty work, but at the same time have some finesse when it comes to like really refined dices. Also, out of the box, these things were razor sharp, making it really easy and just kind of fun to use. The Mercer Renaissance knife though, at 55 bucks, I think it's just a perfect knife to be able to grab because it's not too expensive that you feel like you're gonna be like, you know, losing a lot of money. And it's also not nice enough that I think somebody might be a little too precious and not use it. This is a workhorse knife that I've had for about 15 years, and this thing has never let me down. It sharpens like a dream. It's really comfortable to hold on to, and honestly, it's thin enough to be able to get some really beautiful, nice like knife work. And that's about it, guys. I just wanted to actually go through this and just do a quick, comprehensive breakdown of all of the favorite knives that I've kind of had a chance to use throughout this year, and then just give you guys my thoughts. I think that these knives are perfect investments for the future, and especially for the holidays if you actually feel like getting a last-minute gift for somebody. So, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.